This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 8 breakdown for the pre-regionals that I ran with help from Zulu Games. And real quick, if you guys haven't checked out Zulu Games, make sure to do so. They sponsored the tournament, and it's part of the reason it's free, and I want to keep these tournaments as free as I can for as long as I can. So they definitely helped that, and I couldn't have run the tournament without them. So please consider checking them out. I would appreciate it, and they would appreciate it as well. But going into this tournament, we do have, it was 44 players. It was also live streamed on my Twitch. The VOD is also linked in the description. I will be re-uploading it to YouTube within about a week or so, just depending on some timing, but it will be on YouTube if you guys want to watch it there instead of on Twitch. But that is kind of how the event went. We do have some regionals coming up for us here in North America, including this upcoming weekend. And with the changing of mulligans and with the Greymon X being down to 1, it is a bit of a different format, and you'll see there's a lot of diversity right now, which I think is really, really cool. Between this event and also the European event that happened the past weekend, just a lot of diversity in general. So looking at this archetype breakdown, the big thing that we noticed is that there's, Crossheart was the most played archetype in this tournament, but no one placed with it. No one got top 8 with it, which was really interesting. I think a lot of people will continue playing it, but I also think that I don't know if people are just kind of learning how the deck works or just trying different builds of it, because there are kind of, there is flex room for a lot of cards for the deck as well, but it is really interesting to see it not get on that top. But in the top 8, we did have 2 blue flares, which we're going to talk about pretty much each one of these decks, just because both blue flare builds are kind of different. But also Examon, Beelzemon, Dorbick, Gallant, Black War Gray X, and an Ulforce as well. So again, if you guys want any of these deck lists, though, they will be on my website, Eggman Events. Please consider checking that out. I've been working really hard on it too. So we're going to just jump on into each deck. Essentially, we're going to go through all top 8 because of just how diverse it was. So going into first place, this is Zachary's Blue Flare, and this deck I think is honestly, I think Blue Flare is one of the strongest decks in this format right now. It interacts with a lot of the other decks that are going on pretty good. The fact that you're able to always kind of have like a stun plan if needed. Obviously, I think the clinch point for this is sometimes you don't get a lot of card draw in this deck, but Dramon can do a really good job at making sure that happens. The Greymon, Metal Gray X, I don't know if jank's the right word, but it's something. Being able to use that and get some really big damage is fantastic for this deck. And something that was missing, I think, in the versions that in the Ultimate Cup format, because this deck was run pretty good in that format, is the triple tamer here, the Taiki, Kiriha, and Nene. This is super duper good in this deck, and even though you don't run it at 4, the fact that it's just like another way to get memory, another way to have a tamer for you, I think is very strong. And again, you are missing out on the Greymon, Metal Gray X in the Ultimate Cup format as 2 because they're red, but I think that's strong. And like the one Death X too, but I think this has like a pretty good matchup across the board on a lot of what's going on in this meta, and I don't know. It's really weird. There's a lot of stuff that's viable right now, so it's a bit of a crapshoot when it comes to trying to counter stuff. But I think in general, the Blue Flare is a pretty solid deck. I know a lot of people think the deck's annoying, but it's also very good. So congrats to Zackery for their first place there. I did also want to go over Austin Zenitsu Statfield's build 2. This is I believe he calls it Red Flare. I still will say it's a Blue Flare deck. It's kind of like a mix between like Blue Flare and kind of like the idea, I think, around Dorbick. So I really like this build. It's really creative. So it has like the red package. So it has the Guilmon and the Guilmon X. And if you really think of Blue Flare, like you don't actually need like the actual package for it, like the blue low side. And then, so we have a Metal Gray Greymon, and we don't even, like, the only, like, tamer we have that can help us with the cross requirements is the Taiki, Kiriha, Nene, but you just have a really good chance to do the forbidden combo, I'd say. So Greymon with Metal Greymon, and then you can digivolve into Metal Greymon X. So you'll get 3 checks, I believe, and if you have Metal Bergermon underneath it, you can stun something, and then you can just do like another 3 damage on the next turn. So that's kind of the idea. Also, Z Greymon, if you do have like enough memory for it too, you can get that there. So the idea is that your Taiki and your Yuya can help you gain memory. You have Gravity Crushes to help you there too. You can't run like memory boost traditionally just because there's too much like different colors going on between the two that it'd be hard to consistently do that, and then you just kind of go off from there. So a really interesting deck. Definitely, I'd have to see how obnoxious this is, but this looks like it can be pretty like a more low to the ground version of Dorbick, and Dorbick's pretty good, I think, in this format too. So congrats again to Austin for their finish there. Next up, we have our Examon list. So this is Rayden's build here, and I think that Examon is definitely a deck that got a lot better with mulligans. You always have to be worried about breaking with this deck, I feel like, and especially since you can be a little bit more aggressive with your ratios, which is really good. I do say like this, I think Examon has a pretty bad matchup against the Blue Flare, just because you do have to use a deck that has to make a couple stacks, and Blue Flare is like, oh, perfect, thank you for giving me 2 or 3 stacks. Now I can interact with all my abilities, right? So that's something you have to kind of consider for this deck moving forward. But Examon's been around for a couple months now, and I think it's been slowly getting a little bit better as time goes on. I don't know if I would say this is tier 1 yet. I don't think it is, but I think it's very strong for where we're at right now. It's something that it is a bit of a polarizing matchup deck, because sometimes you just set up your Examon and like you can't do anything. Like I don't think like Black War Greymon X has a good time when you already have the Examon, mostly because a lot of the power of that deck is the fact that you have a lot of when digivolving into your level 5s and 6s. But so if you raise up a level 5, they have to attack with the Examon on the board before you're able to go into your level 6. So I think that can just really shut down the deck a lot of the times. But I think the deck is good. I think we're probably going to see some in the next couple weeks, but we'll have to see if that's the case. So congrats again to Rayden there. Next up, we have Joaquin Flores with their, or maybe Joaquin, third place Beelzemon. Let me know how you say your name, because I've just, that was a thing in chat during the tournament. But going into the Beelzemon, and Beelzemon's obviously the new deck into the scene here. You did have the our big advanced deck, and it is legal now. So honestly, I think this deck's pretty sweet for what you can do. It's very flexible in a lot of ways, and a lot of people say, oh, you got lucky in your discard effects sometimes, but man, when every card, like half the cards in your deck are like discard effects, it's not very hard to get lucky with hitting them and getting that extra value when you hit them. So you can also get some good ways to set it up. So Wizardmon's really good with the inheritable when attacking. Also the IA Mako for that effect too. Very good there. So Death Slinger's great to hit off. Wizardmon's great to hit off. The EX2 Impmon 2, and also your Beals and everything else. Like, I don't know, this deck looks really strong, and the fact that you're kind of flexible in how you can go tall, and if your tall stack gets bopped, there are a lot of ways to alternatively go into it too, which I think is really nice. So I think we're going to see a lot of this moving forward. I think there's a lot of people who are trying this right now too, which will help the coverage of it and into bigger events. But just congrats to Joaquin for their finish there. Next up, we have Armando with Dorbick, and we were talking about Dorbick a little bit when we were looking at the blue flare stuff. But this deck was doing, I'd say, really good. It was doing pretty good in Ultimate Cup format. It was mono red, or at least it can only run red based stuff. So Master Tyrannomon could sneak in there, but no Majindramon, no. None of the Jazzerjimon, none of the Cordramons here are the Tyrannomon. So all these kind of just help the consistency in the deck, in the sense like this gets you security attack +1, which is really, really great in a lot of ways. This one has, you just now have, 1, 2, 3, 4 inhibitables that have security attack +1 now. Majindramon being able to attack twice is huge for it. Cordramon being able to get hit off security, which is great with Geo Greymon too. And this deck is just really obnoxious. I don't I don't know if this deck is honestly healthy for the game. I'll say it outright, just because it's just very uninteractable a lot of the time. Like even with like Grandis, sometimes like they have to build their stack. With this, it's just like they plop it down, and then you have to be like, oh geez, I hope they don't just go through my security. And they also have a delicate plan in Archetype, which is pretty tough. But yeah, I think this deck is kind of hitting its stride a little bit. This is EX3 deck, but I don't think it. I think before last month, I don't think it really topped too much. It maybe topped a couple times. I may be forgetting about it, but I think it's solid enough right now that a lot of people are playing. It is a bit of a casino deck, but man, when it hits off, you win a lot. So congrats to Armando for their 5th place finish there. Next up, we have Sean with Gallant, and it's really surprising to see Gallant in top 8. I've always liked Gallant as like a concept, but it's always been, I think, a little bit tough in execution to be as consistent as you kind of want to be. But you can be a little bit greedier and a little bit more consistent right now, I think, with Mulligans, which I think this is definitely a deck that benefits from the idea of, oh, I didn't like my original deck. We're going to try it again and see what happens. But in general, like nothing's super new with this guy. It's just kind of you want to go up your chains. And the biggest thing with this deck is that it has like no defense. And I mean, it does have ways to interact with your opponent's board with, if you're able to go up your curve and stuff. But man, when you lose your stack, you just kind of lose the game, I feel like, some of the time. So that's kind of like the rough part with this deck. No hybrids in this one either, which I do generally like to run I guess just a one Agunimon, but I usually like run two or three just because like it's a really good recovery for if I lose my stack, I can sometimes still go up it. And also only 3 Takatos, which is really interesting, but obviously it's a little bit more findable with the Workaround one from EX3 as well. So some interesting ratios from what I've been doing, but obviously this deck did get 6th place, so did pretty well for the event, and congrats again to Sean. Next up, we have our 7th place Black War Greymon X run by Anibal, and this is a really interesting build. The ratios are kind of all over the place for this deck, right? Because we do have like 12 rookies, which I think with mulligans is probably going to be standard for a lot of decks. You just choose your 3 favorite rookies and you go from there. But we can't run 4 of this guy, but we're running our 1, 2 of the Greymon, 2 of the Greymon blocker, 3 of the other Greymon X, 2 of Greymon security attack +1. But also the low end too with or not the low end, the level 5s for this too. So 3 of the X antibody and then 1 of the BT11, which I still like this one. I'm surprised you're only running 1. This one's really strong. Metal Greymon X as well. We do have the Metal Greymon for popping something with 4k DP or less when you attack, and then also just the Ulforce mode, which can essentially be on either side, but just a really interesting level 5 mix up here. And then 2 of the Black War Grey X, 1 of each of the Black War Greymons between the BT81 and the promo one, and then 2 Gaiomons too, and then 1 Omni, and then 1 also Omni X antibody. So really interesting kind of layout here. Obviously I think this is a deck that people might be a little discouraged to play because because Greymon X is at 1, but honestly this deck is still really strong in a lot of ways, and I think it's very viable. And I don't be surprised to see more of it kind of pop up in the next little bit. So congrats again to Anibal for their finish there. And then lastly, we have Brady with his Ulforce list. And I think Ulforce is definitely got a little bit better with mulligans as well. In general, like I think some decks were already pretty capable without mulligans, and then the decks that were not got a little bit more consistent from there too. So just very strong with obviously you have to run like a lot of tamers, and it can be kind of bricky because of that, especially since half the tamers don't even do anything like draw wise afterwards. But I do think it's strong there. I do like the idea of running the Sora Matt Sora, just so you can play a Delicate Plan as well. I've been either seeing the Delicate Plan or the Security Attack +1 plugin. I think both are pretty good for this deck. And instead of doing another level 6, we're doing a Merciful mode, which is nice there to delete and then place 10 cards in your opponent's trash bomb. Yeah, like this is really good against, I think, Beelzemon too, and if any Beelstars happen, I suppose. But like this is a good way to kind of mess up with your opponent in some ways, and just do some effects with your, it's probably just with best level 7 for this deck. I've been seeing it a couple times, but other than that, like the deck is kind of, at least like the layout of your Digimon are usually pretty decided. It's either you run like the hybrid package or you run like the Leomon package, and then the tamers that you like, and 5 arenas with one of them being the BT21, and then 4 of the V tamers. I really do like this V tamer. I think it's very good for this deck. But that is this, and that is going to be the end of this breakdown too. So thank you again for everyone who showed up for this event. It was super fun. I will be doing more in the future. Again, congrats to our winners, and again, thank you to Zulus for sponsoring me in this tournament. I would not be able to do it without them either. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.